Hello, welcome back to After Effects Tech Desk. Today we're going to talk about how to create a squash and stretch effect using expressions and some master control sliders so that you can affect how much of this effect you get and do it dynamically so that you can do it to a lot of layers at once and work through this really quickly. And you'll see if I turn these down to nothing how effective it really is and what a difference it really does make. And this didn't take too long. It's a little bit complex, but I'm going to break it down and simplify it all for you today. So really this is all based on the linear function. And first I should mention, I guess, what squash and stretch is. Probably know this, but if we look at this, and I'm going to turn off this expression to begin with, just so that we can see. I have the anchor point at the bottom, so you could get your stretch that way, either pinching inward or stretching outward. And you also have your stretch, your squash. I don't know which one this is, but going up and down that way. So, and what we've done is created a way so that if I turn my controls back up, turn them kind of high so you can see what's going on. We have it so that when it moves up, and I'm going to do this slightly differently. A little bit funky there. What's happening, actually we're going to put this, going to focus on one thing at a time. So as it moves up and down, it's either scales upward, and as it moves down, scales down. It's all dynamic. There's no keyframes on any of the scale, just this code. So that is being driven by this, mostly the linear function. So I'm going to bring up Notepad and we can take a look at what that is. The linear function is just this expression, and it takes 5 different items inside here though. So that's where it does get a little bit complex and creates a lot of code, but it's really not that hard. So we're going to say the first thing is what you're evaluating. So what we're evaluating in this one is how high this ball is, its Y position. So we're going to say the input. Then we're going to say, okay, give it some range parameters and a high and a low end. So we're going to say we're going to have an input low, and then you're going to have the input high. So you're going to say when it gets to, say it's at Y is at 0, it will be output low, and when it's at its highest point, it will be added the output at its highest. So this will become a little bit more clear when we start to work through the actual example. So in this case, we have our linear, our input is our Y position. And if we look at this position, I've separated the dimensions already by right-clicking. Here, if you're not sure how to do that, I'm going to the normal position like this. If you right-click and separate dimensions, you can do that. And this can be helpful for stuff like this. So basically, I started off by just animating the timing of just the X to help get it roughed in. And then I figured out what all this Y up and down were. So then I added that separately. And you'll see that's just going up and down. So actually, if we turn that one on and delete the X, you'll see it's just going up and down. And that means anywhere we put it, it's just going up and down. So there's a high and a low point. It's at about negative 222 and it's about negative 155. So I would put, my input would be Y position. So then our input low, we'd say negative 222. So our input high is negative 155. Now the output low is what we want the scale to be. So if it was normal, it'd be 1.0, but we want it to stretch out a little bit when it's at its high. Let's say it's high point. Well, negative 222, that means it's down, so that's where it's going to stretch the most. So let's say it'll scale inward and be all flatter. We'll say something like that. And when it goes up, it's going to stretch out again. So we'll say 1.2. So it's going to stretch up a little bit as it moves. And that's basically it. Now it gets a little bit more complex here. I'll copy and paste the code that I'm using and break that down. On the scale, there's 2 dimensions, so we have to start off by, if we look at the end of the code, we're declaring just that's scale X and scale Y. And if you look at that, that's scale X, scale Y. There's 2 dimensions there. There's no way to separate these like you can with positions, so you have to use the code and expressions to do that. If you're not sure how to do that, you can check out one of my other videos that explains that. So all we're doing here is the same thing. We're creating our parameters and lots of variables. So our input here, if we're looking at what the input is T here, and we're just saying that's transform.yPosition. If you're not sure how to code that out, you can just take something, and if you right click it and pick whip it to it, you'll see transform.position. Now this one, because it's separated, maybe we should show you it that way. So if you say did it to that, it would be transform.yPosition. So that's a good easy way, and you can just undo that. So it's taking that input, so whatever this is, so if I look at my Y position here, it's going somewhere in between 155 and 222, and wherever it is in there, it's going to apply this scale range. And basically I just have a null with these regular old sliders on it. Just add a slider effect to that. You can rename it whatever you want, put in whatever number you want. I am putting in the upper limits, and so I can control all of that everywhere. And this is controlling the scale for X and Y. And if we look at this code again here, you can see that this is really just a bunch of variables listed, kind of like I did here. inLow is thisComp.layer scale controls, which is that. And again, how do you write this? This seems complex. It's not really that hard. Even if you just took a new slider here and dragged it to there, you have, if I copy and paste that, I can get that string that will lead me directly there. And once you have the one, it's pretty easy to go in and figure out, especially if you name your things correctly. So I could have added Y here, and that would have helped make it clear, but you have to add it there then. And I'm just declaring the same linear expression. And that's pretty much it. And then once I have that applied to one, I can then copy expression. And then I had lots and lots of layers of this. There were probably 60 lines of text for this project. So I was able to just select label group after I've copy expression only, select the whole label group, and just paste it in there. And after this timing was all done, I didn't have to worry about any extra keyframes for the squash and stretch, and I could control it, how much, and change it whether our client wanted more or less of that effect. So that is gonna be it for this video. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And of course, subscribe and like the video. If you have any ideas for future videos or questions about other topics that would be good for After Effects Tech Desk to cover, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, and hope you have a great day.